show today was brought to you by Vitapler E-Boost Gum. With no pill to take or powders to mix, Vitapler E-Boost Gum is a first-of-its-kind energy rave supplement that provides magnesium, electrolytes, and antioxidants while you chew. Vitapler is the perfect complement to my active lifestyle, whether it's at the festival, on the road touring, or hitting the gym. Chew Vitapler and dance with confidence. Use code Lizzy Jane for 10% off any order. Maddy O'Neal, I'm so excited that we finally have the time to have you on the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad that we got to meet.
Absolutely. Finally. I feel like I've seen just, even from me being in Florida for so long, I was always kind of just drawn to you because you had the live aspect with, you know, your artistry and with your DJ sets and everything across the board, just for having like really chill, relaxed music, but also like a popping live show.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
Just as we kind of have discussed, you know, you are now going 1,000 miles an hour at all times. You just had a massive album come out, Ricochet, correct?
Yep.
And I see remixes starting to come out. Kind of, you had Bicca do a remix, right? Or is that for something else?
Yeah. So right now we're in the middle of, we had so much interest in a remix album that we did 2 remixes per song. So we're gonna do 2 volumes of remixes, which is incredible. Like I couldn't like turn people down. I was like, okay, we need to just do 2 volumes.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're right in the middle of rolling out all the remixes for Ricochet, which is always fun. Like as you know, it's cool to have like different versions play live and just like hearing what, you know, how people interpret your music, and you're just like, holy shit, like. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's really fun. So I'm excited to get those out.
And like the momentum from the album coming off of like Lollapalooza, you have a huge summer lined up already. Bonnaroo, Envision, so many other festivals in between. How are you feeling? Are you like collecting all your thoughts? You just bought a house, like so many things going on.
I mean, this past year in general for me has been like insane. In all the best ways. Like I feel like I finally have like balance personally, which I think contributed to, you know, how I was able to do so much and like maintain, you know, sanity.
Yeah. Yes.
Because as you know, like touring it can be a lot, and like trying to find time to make music too, and especially write an album. I'm really proud of myself for, you know, finding the balance to do all those things. And that comes from, you know, having stability and having like a house and like a routine and things like when I'm at home. Yes. But yeah, it's been a pretty transformational year for me as a whole.
100%.
Yeah, I'm just trying to ride the wave.
Absolutely. And I mean, I do look at your journey as like you've had the Maddy O'Neal project for quite a while, and you've really built it up. And just like from my perspective of where I'm at now is like more of like, I would say like an elementary artist in like the chapters of just like full on touring, full on, you know, releasing your first album, going into your, you know, your sophomore album. And the way that I've seen your career from like an outsider's point of view roll out is, you know, you've given your project so much time to grow and develop into, in my mind, like a very like mature piece of like art. Like I listened through like Ricochet and it's like, okay, you know, you have all of these elements and things that you incorporated in your very early years of Maddy O'Neal, and now it's like this more
you can hear the evolution.
Version. Yeah, evolution, but also with all of these new elements, you know? And I think that's so cool, and just the balance of tour life with personal life and having that sanity. I feel like when I watch certain artists, you know, careers really, I would say like skyrocket maybe a bit too soon. It's really hard to have that balance and know how to approach it without completely A, burning out, 2, going insane, or C, being like, this just isn't for me.
Yeah, or like getting sucked into the party lifestyle, which I totally did, you know, at a certain point. I think everyone does.
Yeah,
and,
you
know,
Oh,
everyone has their phase. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate that compliment from like the outsider's perspective. You know, I think everyone has their own unique like journey within music and like your relationship with success. Yes. And I'm really grateful that I've had like a long-term career and it still feels like I'm just getting started. You know what I mean? Like, that's the goal. It's like making timeless music, not following trends, and like being able to like grow at your own pace and not feel like, you know, there's like this small window where you have to like do a certain thing to like catch this, you know what I mean? I feel like maybe people are catching on more. So I know I've gotten a lot better, but like, you know, there's so many factors, and like
so many factors
when
it
you
happens.
feel, like when you feel like you're like popping off or whatever, or like, you know, getting more bookings, or, you know, feeling like you can do more of your own shows, and back to like just being stable as an artist, like being able to support yourself.
Yes.
You know, making a living off of your art is the ultimate form of success, whatever that looks like. So yeah, I feel very grateful to feel like you know, I'm in a really cool place in my career where I have so much more growing to do, but I've also had a long career already.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So.
And I do feel like so much of that is just what you said. I mean, I will always say, if you are going to follow a trend, by the time you master that trend or master that subgenre or certain sound design that's popping off or certain, you know, utilization of vocals or X, Y, and Z, it's going to be on to the next trend.
Totally.
So I mean, in my eyes, it's just you didn't quit at what you were doing, and you knew the vision that you had for the project. And I will always say that when somebody has a very, you know, stern vision of what they want, even if that matures or reinvents itself into something else long term, you know, it's going to take longer for people to catch on. It just is.
Yeah, and like learning to like trust yourself, and like trusting that you kind of don't know what you're doing at the same time, but like trusting the inclination to experiment in whatever way that you're doing.
And that's
you know
scary.
I mean?
It can be very
terrifying.
scary.
Yeah, and like it's crazy to try and like define your music to somebody else, because like other people are like, oh, I can tell that that's like a you song, and I'm like, really? Like, why? Tell me why. Because you know what I mean? Like, you hear it in a different way than other people do too, like finding your sound, or like being able to categorize it. But I think the more you are true to yourself that you stay, you know, those sort of things just kind of fall in line naturally.
And you always want to do stuff that you enjoy. You know, it's like if you're working a job that you hate, especially in art, it's like if you're making art that you don't have your full heart into it, and you're just making it because, you know, and I get the kind of way out where sometimes you maybe need to make some things that you know are in your line, but you're not really feeling like totally fulfilled, and then you partner them with songs where you get to experiment and you get to feel totally fulfilled. You're at least like staying in that line where, you know, on my personal end, it was for a long time, it was like I like loved bass music, but I had all of these different kind of musical backgrounds, from like being in a band and being classically trained and like wanting to put orchestral elements and wanting to sing live and wanting to have a live like show. And it was like, ooh, like I don't want to make dubstep, you know, like Excision, like headbanging dubstep, like I love it, and I'll always take like pieces of it into my work, but I have to do what like makes me happy, because that's the only way that I'm gonna get across to the fan base that like I know is gonna really connect with me. And I feel like as far as your fans go, like you just have such an awesome community, you know?
I feel like I do too. I'm like, you can't choose your fans, unfortunately.
Nope, you cannot. You cannot.
But I think like because of the way I like look at it differently, because of the way that I like got into music and like was absorbed into this community, you know, like the Pretty Lights community, number one, which is like a very special thing, I think. Very like fan focused and community focused.
Yes.
Their team actually kind of like built that around like the Fish community.
Okay. Yeah.
If that
like the jam band. Yep. Yeah. I know.
So like they had like that model of like focusing on the community, and so that was like the first thing that I saw. You know, and got absorbed into. So I kind of like used that model and really wanted to focus on the communal aspect of it, because it's like it's bigger than you know, like
it is.
You're reaching people in all of these different ways, and how do we connect those people to each other so it's not all about me? You know what I mean? It's like about this other thing.
It's such a bigger picture too. And I feel like I see that like in the way that your project comes across, where I think now, and just, I don't know if it's like just generational differences in like artists. I don't know if it's the development of social media more so,
Yeah.
you know, where I think a lot of artists are just like very, in my opinion, just like very loud now. Like it's like, how loud can I be, kind of?
Right.
Instead of,
well, it's all personality based
Yes.
because of social media.
Exactly.
I think that's a big factor for sure. But yeah, it is interesting.
It's so interesting because like for you it was like, you know, like you're like gorgeous, like you're gorgeous, and it's like
thanks.
there's like a really like hard line where I'm sure you see now, and it's like something that I've kind of like gone through where, you know, there's stuff on the lines of, we're really just getting into it, but I feel like you're the perfect person to talk to this about, of like, you know, sexuality and femininity in the electronic dance music scene. And I really see, while there's a multitude of categories, you kind of have to almost choose as an artist, like, okay, like, is this going to be like a forefront of like my brand, the way I present myself, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and all power to them.
Yeah.
Or it's like, okay, or am I going to take this like forefront where I'm going to really focus, number one, on like letting my art do the talking, and then doing my other brand orientated things to support that art. And that's how I feel, in my opinion, your project has been kind of communicated to your fan base. And it is all about the community. It is all about, you know, the art, the music. This is all of us together. And that comes from, you know, I think of the Tipper, I think of the Pretty Lights, I think of, you know, all of those jam
Tipper's
bands,
a great example too.
STS9, like all of those guys, where, you know, we're here, but it's almost like we're a soundtrack to like a gathering versus, oh, look at me, I'm here, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, especially because I started like 10 years ago. There was even less females in the music industry.
Oh my gosh, there were like little to none.
Yeah,
You guys were like four in every corner.
I could count them on my hand. So I think, especially coming from that time period, I hated like being separated. Like when people ask you the question, like, what is it like being a female in the music industry? I'm like, when you realize when you ask me that, you're automatically putting me in a different category. So like, I think subconsciously, the way that I dressed and the way that I presented myself, I didn't want to be like over-sexualized, because I didn't want people to like approach me in a certain way, or like automatically like first impression think of me in a certain way, especially because there was so little examples to go by, you know what I mean? And like you said, there's nothing wrong with any of those ways of presenting yourself. I just think that because of the era that I came from too, I think I was even more so like
inclined.
Just listen to my music.
Oh my gosh.
You know
I mean, I can't imagine.
But, yeah.
It's, I mean, I talk to women, and now it's like amazing that there are so many women, and like we're still obviously not as many as, you know, opposite genders and such, but
we've come a long
It's a community
way.
now, and it's come a long way, and I think it's, a lot of it has been from like the inside out, as far as the infrastructure of some of the agencies being formatted and some of the labels being ran, you know, every major label that kind of we have our eyes on, or agencies, you know, they've all got an assistant or an early agent that's a woman, and they've all got an A&R that's a woman. And you know, and that's amazing, because women are going to seek out other women to support them. But
I'm in like a WhatsApp, it's called like She Is the Music.
I'm in it.
You are? Okay, cool. I was going to say, you should be if you're not.
Tony added me in it. She's with 2+2 management in Canada. She was here with the residency. She added me. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was blown away how many women there are, like just in all aspects of the music industry when I got added to that. And now I have a female agent on my team, and I'm just like, holy shit. I could not have imagined this like years ago.
100%.
So we have come a long way.
Yes.
And I will give the world credit for that.
Right.
Whoever.
Right. There's more to go, 100%, but we have gone a long way, and there's such a community, and I think that with that being developed, I think women just have the opportunity to do what maybe you didn't have when you knew what you had to do in order for your music to be respected, heard, you know, acknowledged. And now we're in a sense where there's a lot of female producers, and and they're able to make those decisions of, okay, like if I want to express my project in this way, like I can be confident and do it in this way and not
and
be
more
questioned.
power to them too.
Absolutely.
You know,
100%. 100%. And you know, with you starting the Maddy O'Neal project about a decade ago, that's so exciting. Oh my gosh.
It's actually, so I started making music 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I was in a duo project with an ex for 5 years.
Love it.
Called Crooked Drivers.
Okay.
Did you know anything
I didn't know. Nope.
Yeah. So I left that project to do my solo thing.
Okay.
It's 2016.
Okay.
So the Maddy project is like younger.
It's definitely younger.
But I've been like in the game for 10 years.
Yeah. I always say like, it doesn't matter like how long you've been doing it, 10 years. 10 years is the mark.
Yeah. And even especially in the beginning when I was with an ex who was a male, the way that it stemmed from that back to like our previous conversation, like standing up there with him too. Like I just wanted to be like equals.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So yeah, but yeah.
It's definitely a journey. And like before that, you know, at that 10-year mark, is that like when you started making music, or were you ever like, because I know you do like, do you play like instruments in addition to like your live show? Like, do you have some musical background that you pull from?
I don't actually have any musical background.
That's amazing.
Like classic training of any kind. I come from a really musical family. My dad and my brother were in bands my whole life. And I kind of, you know, I played cello and piano like in middle school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like everyone did.
Yes. The recorder.
Yeah.
Hot cross buns, recorder,
yes,
A plus. Yes.
But I knew like I had it in my blood, so to speak. Like I could just hear the way that things work together. And then when I moved to Colorado in 2008 to go to CU Boulder or 2010 is when I started making music. But I moved out here in 2008 to go to school. And that was kind of like during the explosion of just everything. Yeah. You know? And I was just like, my brain was just like cracked wide open. I was just like, what? I need to figure out like how to make that sound. You know what I mean? So I just kind of like dove in head first, and like I'm naturally more rhythmic than melodic, but I play keys now, you know, to a certain extent. But yeah, I'm kind of like self-taught all around, and I just use my ears for the most part.
So much of it is ears.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I started out sampling vinyl. So I would go to record stores and just chop things up, and it was kind of like that ritual. And I learned so much about music from doing that. Just like, you know, finding little gems and like how this, you know, this little guitar riff fits in the bigger picture of this, you know what I mean? So yeah, it was kind of like just like a collage-based teaching method. I love
that. But so much of it is like, I think that sometimes producers get caught up in producing for other producers as far as like a technical aspect of it.
Right. I think that's really prevalent like right now.
Right now. Yes. And instead of like, I have like during COVID, when we went into COVID, you know, touring stopped, obviously. Yep. And a lot of people created like Patreons, or they did lessons or X, Y, and Z. And I kind of had a collaborative effort of like group lessons that turned into one-on-ones when things started picking back up again. But, you know, I myself am a very like technically analytic person, and like I really am, like I hone in on paying attention to details way too much than I should. Like I shouldn't as much, like letting go of songs.
It can
like,
be
all
a good thing.
It can be a good thing and a bad thing. Yes. But, you know, sometimes people will obsess over the little things, and in my mind, when I get asked a question by a student about a snare or about a kick or about mixing or something, it's just like, well, at the end of the day, does it sound good? Like, does it sound good? Like, if you listen in your AirPods and you listen on your phone and you listen in your car and you show a friend that has no idea what music is, does it sound good? Yeah. And that's what really matters. And then, like, right now, with what you're saying, especially within the bass community, I think creating, like, records versus tracks and like bangers are like a huge differentiation that a lot of people are finding kind of harder to cross that bridge. And I don't know if it's because of the output that is expected of us, just because we're like digital producers. So it's like, oh,
Totally.
you should make a song every 48 hours kind of thing. And
right. And it takes a long time to make an album.
Time.
So it's like,
yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, it's just not necessarily the lack of musicality, but the lack of like connection that like I want to have with my listeners. Like they don't care about the snare that I'm using, and they don't care
Right.
about the sound. And
totally.
and
you have to remind yourself of that, because like
have
at
to.
a certain point, you will never listen to music the same.
Nope.
Ever.
I mean, yeah, we
ever
won't.
again.
We
like,
just won't.
and it's like, it's kind of crazy to think about, but like trying your best to remove yourself from that
You
scenario.
have to.
Like, how does this make me feel?
Yep.
Is like the number one question.
And when I go and see, you know, it's the same. It's ruined forever. When I go at any club show or anything, like even at like from like an audio engineering point of view, like if I listen to a venue and I'm like, oh, that's phasing, or this should be louder, or this should be this or that, and then my boyfriend's like totally lost in it and he's like loving it. I'm like, I want to be like that.
Yeah,
like, can I just be like that? But when I see like live music, like I saw FKJ at Mission, and like that was breathtaking.
Nice.
You know, it's like that's
There's
when
pockets
I'm
where you can just let
able
loose.
to go, and like the jam bands, like stuff like that. Like I really, really, really love that. But you just have to sometimes have that disconnection of where your listening is, and like going into your album, where an album does take so much time. You know, what was the process of Ricochet? Like, how long did it take you? When did you start kind of piecing together concepts?
So I actually approached this album differently than I have in the past. Okay. Like for EPs, I spent like a month or so like gathering ideas and like just experimenting, like finding tones and sounds. I even had like a folder of like songs that like I was inspired by, gathering like drum sounds and just kind of setting myself up for success.
Yes.
So that I didn't get caught up in like the details that we're talking about right now. I wanted to like, you know, try to add some cushion so that I can just go to a folder rather than getting sidetracked for like 2 hours working on a snare, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I think that really helped my workflow in general, was having that prep time and like the experimentation and just kind of like figuring out what direction I wanted to go in. But I think a big part of making this record was like overcoming this imposter syndrome that I had been struggling with for a really long time. It's like I toured with a lot of bands early on in my career, like savant musicians that like know way more about music theory than I do. And like, I think that fucked with me for a while, because like I wasn't focused on like what my strengths were, and I was comparing myself to the immediate, you know, musician that was in front of me, and I was just like, how?
That's been like shredding guitar since I've been
like I'm like, how do you do that? But then like, you know, I'd go back to the bus on like Lettuce Tour, and they'd be like, teach me how to produce, or like how to use Ableton, and how do you do, and I was
you
like,
realize you're like, okay.
I can't teach you anything,
you
know? But like at a certain point you embrace, you know, what your strengths are, and there is no right way to do anything. And so I focused on what we're talking about, is like, how does this make me feel? And, you know, tried to remove myself from all of these things that I think were taking up unnecessary space in my like confidence when I was making music. So I think that was like a big thing that happened while I was making the record that like allowed me to like just go.
I get caught in that too, 100%.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, and you know, there was this magical creation period, but like, you know, I'll deal with that again too. It doesn't ever go away. I don't think for anybody, but I think that that's part of it, is like leaning into those moments, and then you like learn more, and then your confidence comes back, and then, you know what I mean?
You know, you're like a ever cycle. Learning, you know, you're never going to stop learning, and because that's when it'll definitely plateau. It's like you always have to be, it's hard because it's like you always want to be up to date with like what is popping off and what people are loving at the current time.
You want to pay attention.
But you want to bring your own style to that and say, okay, how can I take what's popping off and adapt it to me, but also play to my strengths? And I think that's a huge thing that like I still do, beat my head against the wall, where it's like sound design, I fucking suck. Like I suck at sound design. I rather play bass guitar or play piano and and turn that into MIDI and go from there, then start with like 2 sine waves and be like, okay, well, we're gonna make something that's not a reed space or something that's not a saw wave. Like I'm really not great at that, but it's like the other side of it is there's tools created to help you there. Like there are presets for a reason that you can cater to your own style.
You
like
can tweak to your own.
There's
like,
Splice. There's other places to get great samples. Like, you know, and that was a huge thing for a while where it's like, especially being in more of the dubstep lane before like going more into a live faceted show, it's, you know, people are sound designing in the green rooms and they're doing this and you're like, I want to learn, but it's like also, you know, is this really what I want to focus on as like my main goal in the project? And when you started the Maddy O'Neal project, did you bring a live element right off the bat, or were you just a DJ at first? Like how did that all come about?
So I was always a producer first.
Okay.
Actually just started like DJing like
Okay,
4
so like
years
Ableton.
Ago.
Like you're running stuff through Ableton.
Yeah, so I learned how to
make
I taught myself how to make music first. Had no idea how to play it live.
That's how I personally think it should be done.
Yeah.
But yes, I get it.
And then, you know, I think a lot of people do it opposite. They like start DJing and they're like, oh, I want to make my own songs to
you get tired.
To DJ.
Yes, yeah.
You know, but I started out producing. I was just really curious. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And then I was hanging out with a bunch of other Ableton DJ producers. So, and I think because I was always playing like 100% of my own music until like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a lot more flexible to play your own songs live in Ableton because like I was bouncing out stems and like cutting things into my drum pads so that I could like do.
You're really like live time mixing with the MIDI mapping and all that
I could
stuff.
like interact with my songs more, like, you know, play this vocal chop in like a different way than it is on the record.
Yeah.
You know? So and it was more fun to interact with it or like repeat the drums separately than the master track.
I love that. Okay.
You know, so it was like way more fun. And I still use Ableton and I still feel that way, but I also love DJing as well. It's just kind of like 2 separate things right now.
Yes.
Like I'll do like DJ sets and then I'll do like the Maddy sets
yes.
with 2 drum pads.
Okay.
So I'm doing a lot of rhythmic things live, like cutting out sample chops into my drum pads or like percussion and drums on the SPDS. Okay. So yeah.
That's cool.
And I want to evolve that further eventually too.
Absolutely.
But I'm also trying to, you know, there's like a practical aspect to it. You want to take up less space on a table.
Oh yeah.
You know, because like I'll play with, you know, on a show full of CDJ DJs and they'll be like, what is that? Like, where are you going to go? And I'm like, okay, well, just need this amount of space. I'll be over here.
I hate that, though. I mean? Yeah. I hate that because it's like, and that's where I'm at now, too, where I'm putting together a live show with the push pad and with a few different synths.
Cool.
In the back of my mind, I'm like, how the fuck are you going to travel with this and all this stuff?
Dude, it's totally doable.
It's totally doable. I will make it happen. Yes. I travel with the Pelican cases and the podcast stuff all the time. So, perfect. Like, I know how to, like, protect and, like, you know, like, defend my gear. Yeah. But, protect. Yeah, I remember first time I played Lost Lands, we did the podcast there, and I didn't have a Pelican case at the time, and I got there, and the bag was whipped open and a mic was gone and one mic was broken and the interface was totally fucked up. And
I was
like
just from the airport?
Yeah. I was like, never again. I was like, absolutely not.
Oh my God.
I was like, we're done. No. I was like, absolutely not. And after that, I was like, okay, you need to like protection, like gear, like CSI agent. Like you're not touching
I never
my stuff.
check my
we never do that again.
We don't check Pelicans.
We don't check Pelicans. But, you know, on the other side of that, that's a huge thing in the back of my mind because, you know, you have something that's so portable where it's a live aspect that I think is super unique in this space, but you're not turning around and saying, I have a full live show and like all of this shit has to be taken care of, and that becomes very, very difficult. I think,
especially when I'm still touring by myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'll bring a tour manager to bigger festivals and stuff, but like if I'm on like a support act on a tour, like you know, I don't have like a sound engineer with me or a tour manager to set up my gear for me or to make sure that, you know, all the things that I need. You have to be so
knowledgeable.
Yeah. So you know, back to the practical aspect of that, it's like, you know, it's it's difficult to do, but it's I think it's worth it because I think it resonates with your audience more.
Oh yeah.
That they know that you're playing your own stuff.
Yes.
Like if you're in front of new people,
Yep.
they're just like a little bit more intrigued because,
they're like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah,
like because you can't really. Like
you never know
tell,
if a DJ is
never
playing
know.
their own music.
Yeah, you never know.
But.
And I think that's just such a kind of like send it home point where it's like the same thing. It's like when I sing, it's like people know it's me.
Yeah.
Whereas like
totally.
when you're doing your percussion, you're stripping the stems and everything, like they know it's a Maddy O'Neal.
You have to
track.
assume that an audience member knows nothing.
Yes.
At a certain point. So like, if they see you singing, they're like, oh, like this is hers.
This is it. Yeah, 100%.
So,
and from like a technical aspect, like from the drum pads and such, like are those going into like, are you MIDI mapping everything? Or are those going like DI into a mixer? Do you have an interface?
So everything is self-contained in Ableton. Both my drum pads are MIDI controllers.
Okay.
So I can control all the levels of those myself.
Cool.
So I don't have to rely on anybody else.
Yes.
I literally just go from Ableton into the mixer.
That's what you need.
And then everything else is me controlled so that like, I don't have to worry about a house engineer having my levels all
over.
wonky.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
So like I made decisions to do things like that. It works better anyway since I'm cutting out things into drum racks to play. But I made decisions like that to set myself up to not have issues later.
For success.
Yes.
Set yourself up.
Yes. The preparation.
Well, and too, like, I think just going and I was a resident DJ for a long time in Florida. Then when I started
where
to
in
tour,
Florida were you?
Ritz, Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so St. Pete area. I love St. Pete. St. Pete.
I don't think I've ever been there.
It's gorgeous. I feel like it's like the only place in Denver that's like semi-comparable, or like only place in Florida that's semi-comparable.
Okay,
to Denver.
I've heard similar things.
Yeah, it's very cool, way smaller than Denver, but fun. And then Tampa's like the city across the bridge. It really only has like one big club. All the big DJs kind of come through it.
Yeah.
Did that when I was in college, and then just seeing sometimes when like the house engineers and the house tech guys, when there's like an EDM show, in their mind, it's like a night off,
Totally.
like it's like, okay,
100%.
you're pressing play, goodbye kind of thing. Like you may even have to fight for like proper lighting and proper like stuff like that.
Still deal with that.
Coming in, especially as a woman, it's like 9 times out of 10, it's you don't know what you're talking about kind of thing. So coming in with a lot of gear and having it all constrained to your own control, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I just, come in, set up my own stuff. I'm like, I need a left and a right and a mic.
Yeah.
Make sure I have booth control.
Yep. That's it. I love it.
So.
So, were you in Denver as you started the Maddy O'Neal project?
I was.
You stayed here since college.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved
amazing.
from Boulder to Denver in 2011.
Oh, sweet.
When I was still in the old project.
Yep.
Which was a total disaster.
Love it.
But we won't go there.
We take the experience from that and we move forward.
It got me to where I am today.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I've kind of lived all around Denver, and Cervantes became my home, as it does for
Cervantes
everyone.
is great.
It's like the cultural center of the music scene here, in my opinion. Like the staff there and everybody became kind of like, just my family.
Yeah.
And they gave me all my first opportunities, like Mikey Thunder gave me like 15 minutes of fame at Sonic Bloom. He just gave me 15 minutes of his set and was just like, okay, here's your shot.
Oh.
So that was the first festival I ever played.
Okay.
Just kind of grew up in the Cervantes
It seems
community.
like a very tight-knit community.
It is.
And
it even more so, like, it's crazy to be in it so long to see like this whole turnover.
That's what I was just about to say. How I'm sure in your eyes, how you've seen it grown is insane.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Because everyone's like, now Denver is like the base capital of the United States. Yeah. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, it definitely was not like that always. I feel like I was part of this wave where like everyone was still kind of like building a community here, because it was like, you know, like Detroit has their thing. There's like cities that have like a certain identity musically.
Yes.
You know, if you look at New Orleans and Detroit, and I think Denver was like this wide open space where a lot of the earlier artists, we were like creating the culture here, because it didn't really have an identity yet.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, is the coolest part about how Denver's grown, is because like everyone felt like they were a part of it.
And now it's insane.
Yeah, and now it's insane. But I mean, not in a bad way.
No,
it's just
no.
it's just wild.
It's wild. This is
like people move here for the music scene.
Yep, and this is the only place that I feel like, you know, bass music is going to outweigh any other subgenre.
Yeah,
it just is.
100%. I know a lot of other like singer-songwriter people that have left in the last couple of years,
Really?
like to go to LA.
Yeah.
And you know, because it's like there's not a ton of space for it.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
And
I
I've
wish
come
it was
across
more well-rounded.
Yeah, I've come across amazing bands too here.
I think the jam band culture still is big here too. But there's not like a rap scene really.
No.
Like a hip hop.
Nope.
Very or singer-songwriter, like indie rock. There's like none of that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there is, and I'm just not paying attention.
I've come across like, because I live in Reno, I've come across like some showcasey things that they do where they'll do like the Banshee House, and then they'll open Larmier Lounge, and like it's a bunch of like local-ish bands that come in, but they're all like incredible, and I'm literally like, holy shit, this is insane. But what you had said, there's just not a ton of growing space for them. Yeah. But band culture is so much different than it used to be. I was in a band for so long, and like Warped Tour, Warped Tour's gone, and I was in a post-hardcore band. It was great. I played bass and I sang and I played keys, and I loved it. And that's like where, you know, when I like hopped into this, like first it was obviously like a hobby, but it developed into something where I was like, okay, like this is kind of what I've been like doing my whole life, like, or not training for, but like I've done music my whole life in all of these different types of genres. And COVID hit, and I was like, okay, it's time to like bring these together. And when COVID hit, I left my residency. I was like, this is like, if I'm gonna do it, it's gonna be now. And I got set up with.
That was the good part about COVID. I think it really like put things into perspective. It's like, are you giving this 100% of your effort? No, you're not.
and it was like, okay, now you have like this kind of springboard where you've done a few regional tours, you've done like a few shows out of the state. You definitely do have a base from like where you were at. What are you like really gonna do with the project? And that's when it was like, okay, we're gonna take everything I've done thus far and start working towards a live show, make sure vocals are in every track coming out, moving forward.
Cool. And, oh my God, I'm excited.
Yeah, and all of my tracks that have come out since 2021 have had that, but now it's like I'm in the space where I feel comfortable, and I feel like the quality of music intertwines very well with other people's music. So now it's like, instead of me, you know, maybe starting with the song or ending with the song, or putting a few songs in the middle that correlate that are maybe all my own, it's like we have 20 songs sprinkled throughout the set where it's like she's consistently hopping on mic, she's consistently singing. It's turning into more of a live show. And then when I can bring a full instrumentation out behind the set, you know, that's when it's gonna be like, okay, this is her show. Done.
Dude, that's awesome.
I
think that's I mean, that's a really tough transition to make too.
It's definitely,
especially when you're playing your songs with other people's music.
Yes, yeah, because
it's
so
like
many
really
edits, stripping
hard.
vocal stems. Like a lot of the times, like, you know, if I'm playing predominantly like bass music, you know, we're sitting in that 140 to 155 range, and if I have a few songs that are at 90, I'm stripping the vocals, and then I'm manipulating them, and I'm doing just the harmonies so I can sing on top, and we're putting somebody else's song underneath it that we're making edits of so it can like pop off in a live space. And so it's like,
so if you have a song at 90,
so if I have a song at 90, I'll make a huge edit of it, all of mine until the drop, and then it'll be either one of my drops that are in the same key, or it'll be like somebody else's drop or an ID or whatever, and so it can just go live. Yes, and then it'll go back to the song.
For the drop.
Yes, yep, yeah.
That's
so
smart.
It's like lots of like risers and impacts and breaks times where I have to plan like, this is when I'm going to talk, this is when I'm going to do this, if I'm going to make those transitions. Yeah. But the other part of it is live acts make absolutely no money, and it's really, really hard to really fully travel as a live act. I think like band wise and like
multiple people.
Yeah, like multiple people, which is like not my end goal. However, you know, talking to people like cray, talking to people like who have gone more into the live space, it's like it's a totally different ball game. So I really want to keep it constrictive to obviously one individual, like in hopes long term have like an audio engineer. But for now, it's like if you are knowledgeable enough, just do it on your own. Like anything to cut out the middleman.
You can self-contain it in Ableton for the most part.
And that's what we're like mainly planning. And I feel like that's what you do and you've been growing on since you've been really like establishing your project as a whole. It's so exciting.
That's really awesome. Though. I'm really excited to hear it.
Yeah. It's definitely. I mean, it's the road less traveled. I feel like what you've done is the road less traveled too. It definitely takes longer. You have to really be in it for the full vision. You have to really have people behind you who are like, we really think this can work and is really passionate about it. And the music has to be there, but you just have to be patient and take the time that it needs to take, and it will happen as long as you don't quit. Like that's what I always say. Like as long as you don't quit and you're like cognizant of people's feedback and what you're doing and you have a very strong vision, like 9 times out of 10 I've seen it happen.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with that. And it's interesting because I, coming from this other world of music, like I've been like in this my own little like, I don't even know what to call it.
You have
like
your
scene.
own lane.
Well, thanks. I mean, I feel like I'm figuring that out, but like I've been in like this, you know, like the electro soul kind of like Pretty Lights inspired kind of grizz, Big G, like there's like
it's
a
crazy,
little bubble.
they're all here.
I know.
It's so funny. Like
it's like the Colorado,
like everyone.
Yeah, it's like the Colorado sound was always kind of like off to the side when it came to like bass music.
And now
like
it's everyone wants to do it.
Yeah, and now it's like I feel like, you know, I'm getting put on shows where I'm almost like like I was on Lost Lands, and I was like,
I know.
I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb on that lineup.
Yeah.
But I made 3,000 new fans that night because everyone was like, what is this? Who is this? You know what I mean? Like, so I think that people are much more open to hearing, you know, a little more like melodic.
More than ever.
Bass. Yeah, because they, you know. So it's cool that, you know, I've just been doing my thing consistently over here, but like I'm brand new to a lot of people right now because of the placements that I'm being put on, and I think that's really cool.
It is. And you're getting put in front of the right audience too.
Right. Yeah. And people are ready for it, which I think is important too, you know. Yeah. Especially, and it's the most terrifying thing ever to be on a lineup where it's totally different than everybody else, but it's like, you know, like you said, it's a road less traveled. And you're going to be the standout act on that lineup because you're doing something different and you're not trying to sound like everybody else.
Exactly.
So. And
it's okay. I'll always say too, it's like looking at, I just think like the really large acts, like I'll always use like Rez as an example or so on and so forth. It's like, I'd rather have a fan base that really, really like fucks with what I'm doing than me try and please everybody, because all that's going to do is go around in a million different circles. And I think it's great to create different genres of music. Like I think that's awesome, and I think that now more than ever it is a bit more widely accepted from like the general consumer standpoint of like not having an artist that has every single track sound exactly the same.
Right.
But you know,
it's tough to find the
it's
balance.
Tough to find the middle ground, and it's tough having like it's just like this uncomfortable feeling that is a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's also, you never really know what you're stepping into. And each city is different, you know?
Totally.
And same thing with you where, you know, I've released a good amount of discography that has been predominantly, you know, melodic bass. I've never gone into that rhythm kind of trench out realm. However, I have had a few shows with Excision, and it's like,
aren't you
tonight?
Oh my God,
tonight.
it's tonight.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. But I had one last week with him 2 weeks ago in Minneapolis, and like I've never done standalone shows with him. Like I've done Bass Canyon, I've done Lost Lands, which are super super cool. But now like I've released music that's been like substantially different than bass music, and I'm like, okay, what am I walking into? Like I know where I can press my limits, and I know where I can kind of reel a crowd back in, but you never know how a crowd's going to interpret
crowd.
it. You know, people could love it in one city and then another city could be completely dead. Yeah. And you've kind of been all over the place where you've done shows with the Wonder Years, right?
Marvel Years.
Marvel Years, and then STS9. And then you've also done, you know, like regular just like EDM shows. Yeah. So has kind of the
mostly
range
like
of audience.
More festival plays like in the DJ realm.
Yes.
But it's gone so well.
Yeah.
You know, people are like,
they're ready for different things.
People are refreshed by it, which was awesome for me because I was really scared.
Oh, 100%. Because you never know. You're like, because didn't you play at like 3 or like 12 or 1 in the morning or something?
I played, it was like the last set of the festival at like 3 in the morning. Yeah. And Excision and his parents and his wife were both side stage for my whole set. Oh, like they were ready for it too. They were like refreshed by it. Yeah. You know? Especially his parents were probably like,
thank God. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That whole thing is a family affair. Yeah. The way that they put really that cool. on is they roll it out so well, and you're exactly right. And even I think the year I played, they had one day that there was one stage that was like house music, and it's like people are ready for like
Wooly played a house set. Yes. Right before me.
Oh, okay.
What is this?
Okay.
Stumpy? Yeah. So it was like a house set into mine. So it was kind of like, I think it was, you know, it was just like a whole switch up of a night.
Which is amazing.
Perfect. And I was really grateful, you know, to have those opportunities where people are, you know, giving other sounds a chance.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I think it's...
I think people... go ahead. Sorry.
No, when I look at like sometimes like a crowd like that too, I think that they haven't even been exposed to anything else.
They haven't.
And I think that that's part of my job as an artist is to like, you know, is to be me and to like show people that, you know what I mean? If they've never heard it before or not, you know.
And then they can kind of
like expand people's minds. I don't think it's healthy to only listen to one style of music.
It's not, and I think that people get stuck up in it sometimes, especially because of the culture that goes along with it. Yeah. So it's like I totally understand it, but even from like a corporatized side of things, like as far as like Insomniacs, like when you go to an Insomniacs festival, like you have these like 5 different genres that you know you're gonna hear. Yeah. And then you'll have like a few outliers, and I feel like you kind of bridge that gap between like playing festivals like Envision and playing festivals like Bonnaroo, where you're accompanying
like this crossover,
all sides. Yes.
Yeah. And it's really cool that I can fit into all of those different categories somehow. Yeah. You know, I'm glad that people are giving me a shot.
The live aspect is a lot of it, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I'm still DJing some of other people's music in my sets now, but it's like usually 85% my own music, so
which is amazing because
it feels good to have that ratio.
Yeah, it should, and I think that a lot of, you know, club show culture and stuff like that, when you're walking into a club like Temple or you're walking into somewhere, they're not always like, I don't think DJs have like the forefront, you know, thought like, oh, this has to be like all my own stuff, where like Denver really does support that, I feel, more than a lot of places.
For sure. Yeah, you get spoiled here too, and you realize like when you go other places,
like all those places,
you're just like, oh, okay. That's why like it's nice to have like, you know, some other familiarity, like remixes or edits and stuff. Like if you're playing, you know, for a brand new crowd because they don't know any of your music,
bring them in. Yeah. It's hard playing music that people don't know.
Yes, for sure. But I'm all about taking risks and living in that uncomfortable zone. Yeah. Because I think that, you know, it gets you further.
It's the only way you really grow.
Safe. Yeah.
And that's a way that you like eventually grasp attention. And like that's what is happening with your project right now, is everybody's like, you know, we've known about Maddy O'Neal and we've heard her music and we've heard her albums, but now the crowds are like wanting it, you know. The crowds are like, okay, it's more than just like her fan base, where your fan base is like obviously from end to end like very strong, but like now they're able to put you in front of crowds that are not necessarily like, oh, am I like ready for this kind of like more melodic instrumental kind of feelsy down tempo-y bass kind of infused music, but they are ready and they're like, ooh, okay. And it's like,
and my stuff has gotten a little heavier too, so that
I know.
that
I heard some on the new album and stuff too, and I can't wait to hear the remixes because I feel like so many like the soundscapes that were on the album can just be remixed in really cool ways.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
And
it feels good. If everything about where I'm at feels really good, and I'm excited to like feel like this is a baseline for me to, learn and grow even more.
Do you feel like you're steady right now? Like, do you feel like you're like, okay, like I've prepared for this?
Yeah,
That's
totally.
Good. I don't think a lot of people feel that way when they get there.
Yeah, that is a really interesting point. I think that where I'm at with my project, it kind of happened when I was ready for it, and that's why I am where I am, which isn't always the case, which I'm really grateful for, too. I had a meeting with my now agency a year ago, and they were like waiting to see how my album unfolded and like, to see how it all played out. And they were like, when we say where we want to run, we want to know that
you're right.
You can keep up.
Yeah.
And like a year ago, I was intimidated by that. And I was just like, am I ready to run?
Yeah.
And after the whole album cycle and like everything that happened over this last year, I'm like, I can confidently say like,
let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
I'm confident.
When it's like finally happening too. Cause I just feel like in music and I think just entertainment in general, there's so many like kind of like open promises where they don't really follow through or, words are not equating to the actions being taken.
Yes.
And so many of those happen in combination with the no's you get and all, there's way more L's than W's, 100%.
For sure. Yeah.
And when it finally happens and you are ready and like it will always be intimidating, but then, you start to do the 3-show run weekends and you start to do the festival after festival. You're like, wow, I'm exhausted, but I can do this kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm most pumped that I'm in a position where I can start doing more of my own shows. That's like the best
Curating,
part about it is
that.
like, I love playing with my friends and, being support on other people's stories. It's easier on you because you're not taking the risks.
Yes.
But, the coolest part is that I'm able to, think about what I want my show to look like and whole curation front to back, for the first time ever, which I think is the most exciting part. Obviously festivals are amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the best part about all of this, for sure.
Festival sets are unbeatable.
Yeah.
But curating and I think that's really, in my opinion, how acts now are becoming just really undeniably part of that like top tier is by curating their own events, like whether it's Excision or Subtronics or Grizz, or you kind of think about Closey, the stuff that's happening at the Caverns, the stuff that happens at Red Rocks, when they're doing something from front to back, they're curating the visual experience, they're curating the audio experience, the artists that are coming in, they're having live guests come in, like that's what it's about.
And that's, in my opinion, goes hand in hand with the community-based approach, because like you can't curate a whole weekend without having a strong community behind you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think that's like the most exciting is like being able to grow all of that in general.
It is. It's so exciting.
Which I'm not like there yet, but
You're close. I feel like you're close. Like you have just such a massive festival run of like really, really big festivals this coming summer.
It's gonna be Bonnaroo was like like dream festival for years. So and Envision too. I've been wanting to play both of those for a really long time. So
exciting.
I'm excited about that. And I've somehow become a local at Summer Camp Music Festival.
Love Summer Camp. Yeah.
I've done it like 7 years in a row. I thought I was gonna take a break this year, but then they were like, we want you back.
Let's go.
But that's always like my biggest crowd.
Is Summer Camp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool to have a festival you can grow with too.
That.
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
But like Summer Camp feels like home. It's like the festival that grew me. Like those people have seen me play for 7 years in a row. Like the same people you know, so it's cool to
Such
have
a cool
that too.
journey to have people that see you grow like that too. People who come back or like fans or like comments you get sometimes where it's like, holy shit, like I remember when you were doing this and I remember
people
you were doing that.
remember when I played with my old project there, you know, so it's like.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
And you know, you obviously just released an album and now you're doing kind of like one-off dates, right? Or yes. Are you still continuing the tour? Like, where are you at currently?
So I just played 2 shows with the Floozies in California last weekend.
Okay.
So I was kind of hopping on and off of doing my own shows and then doing shows with other people. Like I did 1 show with STS9, and then I was doing a couple days with the Floozies, and then a lot of my own stuff too.
Yes.
And I think I did 1 or 2 with So Down too. So,
exciting. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So I was kind of just like
all over.
You know.
Oh my god. So much for January being a
dude.
chill month.
Yeah. And I was just in Jamaica with String Cheese.
How is it touring with them? Because they have a crazy community of fans.
Yeah. I mean, so it was just 1 show with them.
Okay.
But it was really cool. It was like maybe like only 700 people.
Oh wow. Super
at a
intimate.
Resort in Jamaica, and I was playing like the late night after parties. Like I did like 1 Maddy set, and then I did like a Maddy house set, and like
That's
people
so
were ready
fun.
for it, you know. So and it was cool. Like you got to hang out and like meet people the whole time.
Absolutely.
And it was very intimate.
And you're getting in front of just like so many different fan bases. Like you think of like Lost Lands fan base,
it's really,
to STS9 fan base.
It's
like,
really interesting. Like I just did my big Cervantes headline.
I know. Yep.
And like. I was like, I wish I would have be like a fly on the wall in my audience, because I know there's a lot of different people that have seen me in different audiences, or different scenarios, or found me in different ways. But it seems like it works.
That's so exciting! Oh my gosh! So it's shaping up that you're just gonna have a massive year.
I hope so. Yeah, I kind of blocked off March for studio time.
Okay.
Which I think is absolutely necessary for anybody.
Yes.
I'd like it to be more than a month, but you know, you come home during the week and kind of like get back into studio mode. And I'm just doing like weekend dates.
Okay.
So I'm not like out on a bus for weeks at a time, which is nice. So yeah, I am prepping for festival season and working on a bunch of new music, rolling out the Ricochet remixes, and yeah, I'm working on a lot of singles and collaborations, and then probably a bigger EP and maybe like a beat tape for later in the year. Kind of like going back to my roots. I just wanted to like where I was talking about doing the vinyl. Yeah, I just want to like
sampling.
go and do that again, because like that's where it all came from.
Yeah.
So I think at some point this year, I'm just gonna like do a beat tape in the mix of the rest of it.
That's so exciting.
Maybe in the fall.
I love it. Well, I just like talking to you, like you can just genuinely tell that like you love it for the music. And I think that Colorado has somehow in some way, shape, or form made a collaborative kind of like fishbowl of transplants that really just love it for the music.
Yeah.
And it's just such an inspiring like creative culture to be around.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing going to like, I'm a homebody, so I don't really leave unless I have to a lot of times. But
I've become more and more of that.
Yeah, but I'm a big like outdoors person too. But like when I go to a show, it's just really cool to turn around and it's like there's so many artists that are doing really awesome things and really cool things that are just here to be part of the community and look at themselves as equal as everybody else who's coming to attend a show. And I don't think there's a lot of safe places, like safe space, creative places like that in the United States. Like I just don't.
It is, there's like nothing like the culture out here. And I think I've always like tried to figure out like how, but I think it's because so many people move here for like outdoorsy activities and like very like nature connected.
Yes.
Like I met some of the first producers that I knew here, they were pro skiers, and I was like a big snowboarder.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like that ski and snowboard community translated into the music community because there was all these after parties in the mountains.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, there's all these little facets of Colorado like that I think have infiltrated the music culture.
So many factors.
Coming from, you know, just being that type of person, like an outdoorsy, super open-minded, you know, came here for adventure type of person.
You're so right. It really does correlate. And like I feel when I like go boarding, like I feel like the same happiness that like when I started like writing music. And it's like totally. I'll go up alone. Like my boyfriend and I'll go up, but like when I go up alone, it's just like I'll meet like so many cool people, and like everyone loves the music. Like you'll be in the gondola.
Everyone's super open and friendly, and just like having the best time. And they're
having the best time. You know, you get to the summit and there's like a DJ, and it's like it's so cool. It's just fun, and it is surrounded around like I really do believe like just like this like healthier lifestyle and like this healthy way to like have fun and I do feel like that's really driven into the communities here in shows.
Yeah,
like I do notice a difference from like the crowds of being other places and being here.
Yeah,
it's really definitely. Special and really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you have so much going on. It's so exciting. Thanks. Maddy O'Neal, thank you so much for coming on the podcast
I didn't really
today.
look at the camera.
I know. Hi. Bye guys.
Hi.
Oh, sweet. That was perfect. Okay.
Yay.